on today's episode of the Unpressed podcast. So we challenged ourselves over the last week to not judge.
All right, life in the judgment-free zone.
We banned ourselves from positive or negative judgments and also self-judgment.
What I found it really hard was not to judge myself and not to say, if only I had done that, if I only had done that, if I hadn't been this.
Welcome to the Unpressed podcast, our weekly virtual cocktail hour between two old friends on opposite coasts. I'm Jenny, a single mom living in Silicon Valley in the land of tech bros, venture capital, and questionable wellness trends.
And I'm Talbot, gay, married, living on the East Coast, dividing my time between New York chaos and Palm Beach drama.
We've survived marriages, divorces, bad highlights, worse decisions, and somehow we're still laughing.
Mostly to keep from crying. So every week we pour a drink and unpack whatever life, love, or our aging bodies have thrown at us lately.
No filters, no pretending to have it all together.
Just two friends, a little too honest and completely unpressed. Hey, Jenny!
Albert!
This is a special episode because we're actually face to face. Same coast.
Are you a hologram? I don't know what to say.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Oh my gosh.
We were supposed to be together back in January,
Yeah.
but then I went and got hurt. But anyway.
Yeah. And now we're back in business.
Back in business. And we took a little bit of a hiatus. We just posted where I think it's going to be a great episode about making friends in adult life.
Yes. I love that episode. And I feel like everybody can relate to it.
Yep. And now we're going to talk about a really interesting week that we just both had.
Yeah. We're in California at my house. And
It's a beautiful day.
It is beautiful. It's been beautiful all week. And my daughter has a horse show this weekend. So Uncle Talbot came in to be horse dad this weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jenny, do you want to tell everybody about our last week and what we tried to do, the experiment?
Ooh, this is a doozy.
It's a doozy.
So we challenged ourselves over the last week to not judge.
All right. Life in the judgment-free zone.
It was, yeah. And what's interesting about it is we banned ourselves from positive or negative judgments, if possible, and also self-judgment. So we weren't allowed to be too hard on ourselves and we weren't allowed to be too congratulatory.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and we also were trying not to judge situations or days. We were just trying to
Correct.
accept things as they were. And I really love this because one of the things I found was it requires you leading with empathy, which I think is a huge way to live one's life, particularly in these days and times. But it's also, I started doing a little bit of research on sort of the religious viewpoints on judgment. If you look at Islam and you look at Christianity, they are very pro not judging others. So if you look into
The Old Testament feels very judgy.
Well,
a lot of smiting going on.
but that was God smiting.
Okay. God can
God can judge.
He's the ultimate judge.
God
right?
can judge.
Mhm.
But both in the Muslim faith and the Christian faith, there are a lot of constraints about judging your fellow man. Mostly because again, as you said, we are not the judge. There is an ultimate judge, and it's not us. So it's interesting that in most
and it's a little bit of the glass houses, right? Like,
Yeah.
do not judge. What is the phrase? Don't judge others, lest ye be judged,
it's one
or
of them.
something.
Yes, that's one of them. But it's also do not about this. Don't complain about the speck in your brother's eyes unless you take out the log in your own, right? Something like that. It's just
Yeah.
a question of, well, wait a second.
Yeah, and that's the moral standpoint. I think what's interesting about doing a no judging week, it's really an exercise in mindfulness.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're asking yourself to notice when you are having thoughts about something. So you're asking yourself to have thoughts about your thoughts, which is the core of mindfulness. That's really where the power is like, it's remarkable to notice how many times a day we judge, right?
Yeah.
And how corrosive it is to the way you feel about yourself, the way you interact with others. It's not very gentle.
We've been down in Florida. We're going through this bulk offer on our condominium, which is now what's happening in Florida, particularly in West Palm Beach. You've got developers who are coming in and buying up these properties to redevelop them. And so our building has been going through this. And as you can imagine, it's highly emotional because you're talking about people's homes and people's finances. And um, I was on I was the president of the board when this whole thing started, and it took up a lot of my time as we're trying to figure out the legal implications, the financial implications. How do you work, amongst 39 people to get um, to a consensus? And I went at it in a very direct way, which tends to be the way I do it. I'm not judging it, direct. But that directness didn't work for everybody. And so that
Mhm.
caused a lot of tension and ended up creating division between basically two sides, people who wanted to sell and people who didn't want to sell. Could we have avoided that if I wasn't so direct? Maybe not, I don't know. But
And sometimes it's just processing time.
right, of course.
Like, sometimes if you're the one who's leading when a new idea comes up, people
Take some
need
time. Yeah.
time to process it. You might become the enemy just because you were the messenger.
Right, of course. And I think what we found was that people were doing exactly that. And in a need to express a desire to get time to think, it came at me very personally.
Yeah.
You're moving too fast. It was really hard to balance all the personal time I was putting in
Yeah.
with a lot of personal vitriol that was coming at me,
Yeah.
which made it very, very hard, which just compounded the problem and resulted in me coming off the board because I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't the best at that point. But what I found that in the last few weeks, I have been judging everybody in that situation
Yeah.
because I feel like I've done so much work and we're still spinning on a lot of things. And there've been a couple people particularly who have been incredibly nasty to me, and that's a statement, not a judgment.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And to be fair, you've been harsh on people.
Absolutely. It starts to become this spin, right? You get treated poorly, you treat others poorly. And so I started the week just really focusing on not judging them and saying, I just need to understand that they have concerns and they have thoughts and they have emotions about this process, and that's totally right.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe we should have all expressed our feelings differently, but and I found it actually pretty easy to get to a point of saying, okay, I'm not going to judge that person
Mhm.
um, because I'm like, okay, I get it. What I found it really hard was not to judge myself and not to say, if only I had done that, if I only had done that, if I hadn't been this, if I had been a little bit more gentle, if I had, and it was tearing me apart because I was having trouble going to bed at night because I was blaming
Mm.
myself for everything that had gone wrong. And again, it took a lot of time to get out of that mindset and release that judgment on myself. I was releasing it on others.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. So, what was the process, first of all, to identify that you're being harsh on yourself? Was that difficult? And then what's the process of just saying, just for this moment in time, I'm gonna try to not judge myself?
Yeah, it was very easy to understand that I was being harsh on myself. That was evidently clear. Um, and what I first started was, okay, I'm just going to notice that at this moment, I'm being very judgmental on myself.
Mhm.
And can I just for 2 seconds, just stop that swirl,
Yeah, give myself a break.
give myself a break.
Yeah,
And, sure, I could do it for 5 minutes and then I'd get back into it and I'd be like, okay, well, wait a second. This is a practice, right?
right.
It's not about being perfect at removing judgment 100% of the time. That'll never, never happen. But saying, okay, I'm back in that mindset. It doesn't help.
Mhm.
And so let's just try again. Let's just say, okay, that was what happened. We could have done things differently, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But at this point, all you can do is just not continue to judge yourself for what happened in the past and say, okay, all I can do now is sort of let that go,
Mm.
remind myself that I made a mistake and that's okay. Other people made mistakes and that's okay. We talked about this, I think, a long time ago when I was doing a meditation class, and the guy said, when you get into this space of negative thoughts that keep generating, he said, try and step back and think of those thoughts as buses on a highway, just passing it. And I was reading an article that said the same thing about judgment and critical thinking. That said, think about critical thoughts as passing cars on a highway.
Yeah. Or clouds in the sky or leaves in the
Watch
river.
them go,
Yeah.
get curious about them,
Yeah.
but don't follow them.
Yeah.
Let them go and
Yeah.
say, okay, there they go. And I thought that was really, and so every time I would start to get in that place with myself, I'd be like, okay, I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
So let's just try and take a step back and just let it go and say, nothing that I'm going to do right here in this moment by judging myself is going to make anything better.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. First step is the noticing, the mindfulness. And then there's there's an investigation piece, a curiosity piece, where you sort of say to yourself, well, why am I doing this? Why am I judging this other person? Why am I judging myself? And, our judgmental brain evolved to keep us out of danger and to make assessments really quickly. So
fight or
you
flight.
come across another tribe, they don't look like your people, then your hackles go up and you get real judgmental. Stranger, stranger, and that protection, and that happens way back in our primitive brains. We can't control this. So the first thing to say is judging is not bad. It is a natural thing. We all do it, and it is automatic. So our judgment system helps us evaluate if someone or something is a threat. So a threat, like a tiger, is heading our way. We need to know that it's a threat so that we can act accordingly. So then the question is, why are we using it in life for things that are not threats?
Right.
Right? Why do you feel threatened that one of your HOA members doesn't want to sell? Like, hey, because I want this to happen and they might get in my way and my dreams might go up and
Smart. Yep.
yeah. The self-judgment is much more interesting to me because in self-judgment, you are the predator and the prey.
Yes, that's a good point.
Right? Like you are literally that harsh, awful taskmaster saying you're not good enough, nobody likes you, you're too this, you're too that. And we are doing that to ourselves. We are predator and prey. And the problem with that is we are keeping our threat system and our cortisol going all the time, which you can imagine eventually your body just says,
Enough.
we're under too much threat. We need to shut down and go into the cave.
Yep.
And that's depression.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. So we have to be careful about the self-criticism because it does lead to anxiety and it does lead to depression.
It's isolation, right? Because you
Correct.
say you're so hard on yourself that you look at the rest of the world and say, I am not worthy. So I'm going to pull back. I'm going to remove
It is
myself.
also this thought, I should not feel this. I should not do this. I should not. So a lot of shoulds. And the reason we say we should not, oh, I messed up in the meeting, I shouldn't do that. That's because we're saying everybody else does it perfectly and we are not, so we should not. It is an isolating practice,
Right.
the shoulds and the self-judgments. When in actuality, we should be connecting with humanity. So self-compassion, which is really interesting in psychology, is about how are these ugly feelings I'm having similar
To what everybody else is
to
doing.
what everybody else is? How does it make me human? And how can I say, yeah, I did make a mistake. Yeah, I did screw that up. Yeah, I did yell at my wife. Yeah, that takes the predator out of the situation and your threat system can calm down. And then you actually have a chance of acting appropriately,
Right.
the way you want to act.
Right. Well, they say when you go into a party, so many people, myself included, if you're a little bit more of an introvert, you go in and the anxiety level reaches, right? Because then you're trying to look around and you're saying, I'm not feeling right. I'm not everybody's looking at me. Everybody's judging
Mhm.
me. And what somebody said to me is, you're not the only one who's thinking that. Everybody else in that room is thinking the same thing. They're so busy worrying about themselves that they're not worrying about you.
And they're not worrying if your outfit is
No, of
wrong
course.
or
They're
if you
like,
look
right. They're
tired
like,
or yeah.
am I going to be smart enough? Do people like my outfit? It's just, it is such an interesting thing.
Mhm.
Such an interesting thing. It was also, I read another thing, particularly on the topic of self-judgment. They said, replace self-judgment with a neutral statement. Not
Okay.
saying, today I'm weak. Today I should be doing whatever.
Just a factual statement, right?
Today I am navigating a challenging time.
I even read you say, "Today I sat on the couch."
Well, yeah,
Instead of, "Today I'm lazy. Today I didn't work out. Today I didn't do enough work." It's, "Today I sat on the couch for 4 hours and watched movies."
right.
Just factual. And then, people are if you tell people don't be hard on yourself, the most common thing that they say in response is, "Then I won't get anything done.
Right.
Then I won't improve. Then I won't be a good person." But the fact of the matter is, if you are the taskmaster and the shamed one, you are not getting a lot done anyway.
Yep.
Like, that is not what motivates us. We know that. Like, if you were little and your parents screamed at you about your grades, like, maybe you were, you know, motivated sort of short term, but that's not long-term motivation to do better in school.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, you and I talked about this. I read you this prayer, which I think is so fantastic from the Book of Common Prayer, which is,
Uh-huh.
"This is another day. I know not what it will bring forth, but make me ready for whatever it may be. If I am to stand up, help me to stand bravely. If I am to sit still, help me to sit quietly. If I am to lie low, help me do it patiently. And if I am to do nothing, let me do it gallantly." And I just think that that is such a powerful statement of being non-judgmental, right? Each day is going to be different.
Mhm.
And all we can do is try and face each day with the most that we can in that given moment.
Yeah.
And some days we have more and some days we have less. And that's okay. That's okay. We're not perfect, right?
Yeah.
We're not, even every elite athlete has a different performance on any given day. You just have to say, today is a day where I am meant to sit on the couch, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I learned this years ago in yoga when the teacher would say, "See where your flexibility is today.
Right.
See what you're getting down into the push-up. Maybe today you can do it." It's this very much, and they call it a practice. And you never are not practicing yoga. You are never performing yoga ever,
Right.
right? So it is something
Well,
that
that would be antithetical to the notion of yoga, right?
right, but that I think is such an interesting, I thought that was an interesting shift in my mind because as an athlete, I would train and practice, and then I would compete.
Right.
Yeah, and so, yeah, this idea that it's never over, and you always have to remind yourself to be non-judgmental and gentle on yourself. I think the point of the week of not judgment is to feel what it feels like to not judge, because we think, "Oh, well, if I don't judge myself, I won't be motivated." But what I find when I do this non-judging is I I get as much or more done. Did you find that?
Yeah, it was so funny because, particularly in writing, one of the things they always tell you as a particularly a new writer is don't self-edit, right, as you're going
As you're
along.
going, yeah.
And that's the ultimate self-judgment, right? You're doubting
Totally.
every single
And by the way, that's not you judging you. That is you getting into the brain of a reader judging you,
which is even
right?
worse, right?
Right?
You're projecting yourself into somebody else's.
And most of that our judgments are that. So if we say, "Oh, I was so clumsy." Do you really care if you're clumsy? It's really other people. I'm getting into the mind of someone else thinking I'm clumsy, don't fit in, I'm too loud, I'm too this, I'm too quiet, whatever it is. So you're externalizing, and adding like a phantom person in the whole circle.
Phantom critic, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I w so I've been working on this book. I've got 2 books in the works. One's a major rewrite and one's getting to the end. And I wrote more this past week, and I didn't actually even think about it till you just asked me that question. But whether or not that was just me sort of getting out of the headspace of judging, but I just I just wrote page after page after page. Ideas were flowing, and I was like, you know what? We're just going to go and see what happens with that. And I think anybody who lives in the creative world realizes how hard it is to be self-judgmental, and that oftentimes you're your own worst critic. That's what we always say, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
You wouldn't talk to your friend. You actually wouldn't even talk to an enemy the way we talk to ourselves. You look terrible. You look old. How did you not know that?
right,
How did you screw that up? You would never say that to
right.
somebody.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So I thought I loved this week again, and it was more about becoming conscious of a bad practice.
Yes.
And
But a here, once again, don't use bad. It is a human practice to judge things and yourself. We do it no matter what. So forgive yourself for that,
correct.
right? That's a piece of it. It's like just lightning.
Well, it's becoming
Yeah.
conscious of the fact that you
Yep.
are judging
Yes.
and getting curious as to why I am judging. What about
Yeah.
is this a situation that is truly life threatening, and therefore I should be judging because I could get eaten by a lion?
Well, let me tell you about a life-threatening situation I had this week.
Yeah.
So I was at a fundraiser and the activity was pickleball. So we were at somebody's beautiful home and they have their own pickleball court and there were probably 30, 40 people there. And the idea was you would hop on the court, you play for 7 minutes and then you got off.
Okay.
So I get there and almost immediately someone's like, "Oh, come on the court." So play for 7 minutes and a guy on the opposite side is whipping the ball with spin and it's, going in the bushes and you can't even return his serve. So,
And this is a friendly game of pickleball. This is not like championship league.
well, my judgment said it was. And I felt this heat rising in my body. I was so angry with this guy. I was like, that's not fair. That's not nice. And not only am I pissed about it because I'm not winning, but I'm going to protect every single person at this party from this guy. Literally.
You be-
And it was ridiculous. So I get off the court. This effing guy never rotated off the court. He played 8 times in a row without getting off. And I was like, yeah, we're having none of this. So I took it upon
I'm
myself.
gonna come up and take care of this. Yeah.
So I came around and I said, let's have a friendly game. And he starts walking to the court. And I said, can you do a friendly game? Yeah. Yeah. And he was like, So because none of the women would play. So I announced there's going to be a friendly game. Not my party, not my house. What the hell? And all this time, of course, I'm sort of aware I'm doing this and I'm holding back a little bit, but I'm not embarrassing myself, but it's still none of my business. And 4 women actually went out and played a friendly game. I didn't. They went out. They were actually very happy. And then the guys go right back on and take over the court for the rest of the party. And I went home and I was like, why was that guy so threatening? Why was he the saber-toothed tiger for me?
Right.
Um, for me, I had this really protective instinct of the people who can't protect themselves,
Right. Right. Right.
the people who don't speak up for themselves. And what I am learning now that I'm becoming an adult is people, if they're not speaking up for themselves, then they don't really care that much.
Exactly. Maybe they don't want to be defended. Maybe they don't want to play pickleball and they're like, thank God there's some guy who's just hogging the whole thing. So I
Or
don't have to
maybe
worry
it
about it.
upsets them, but they're not, I mean, and who gives a shit?
Right.
Who
Exactly.
cares?
Exactly.
And luckily, I was semi-conscious, so I didn't completely embarrass myself. But I did walk away and I said, wow, that was, I really, because my criticism of him was that he was not treating it like a friendly game, when in fact, I'm not treating it like a friendly game. I am treating it like war, right? Right? So, there has to be some self-awareness, there has to be, um and it's hard when it's this, like, feeling and rise in you that you really have no control over.
Yeah.
It's what do you do when you notice it happening?
Yeah. Well, and what happens with judgment too, which is we haven't talked about yet, which is it ends up most of the time you're judging somebody harshly, right? Judging somebody badly for you something that you think they did, right? Or you perceive that they did, and you're perceiving that it's about you, and they're doing it against you, and they're doing it
Mhm.
purposely to get you. And then all that does, at least for me, is it gets me more upset. I start to get livid and like, who is this person who thinks they have the right to
Mhm.
do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And then you just go from 0 to 150 on the, meter
Yeah.
of anger.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I found during this week too is if I'm not judging, I'm not getting mad, right?
Right.
I'm staying much more calm. I'm
Right.
much more level-headed. I
Right.
am not letting so a great and short example. I was on the plane yesterday. There's these two women behind me, and they are chattering, 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 chattering for 4 hours. And I'm like, God, that's really annoying. Like, why don't they shut up? Right? Don't they understand? Like, this is and
Mhm.
then you get to that point where you get all I can now do is just listen to them
Yeah.
because I've gotten
Yeah.
myself so
Yeah.
worked up. And the more I listen, the more I get worked up. The more I listen, the more because of course now saying inane, stupid stuff, and I'm getting and I was about to say something, and I thought, well, wait a second. Why are you so mad? Nobody else is nobody else is caring. Nobody else is. If you just turn it off,
Yeah.
then I'm not going to be bothered by
Yeah.
it. You know what?
Yeah.
Let them chatter. Who cares?
Yeah.
Maybe they're old friends who haven't seen each other in a long while, or maybe that is just their personality. Maybe the one woman is really scared about flying, and so her constant monologue was just a way of taking things off
Yeah.
of her mind.
Yeah.
So I also found that it'll let me sort of mediate my own reactions to the world and just be like, okay, I don't need to worry about that. That's not about me.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's making it about me. I'm the one that's getting upset. So I also have the power not to get upset. So why don't we choose that path?
Yeah. Of course, that shows also we do the things that, when somebody else does something wrong, we think is wrong or annoying, we say they have a bad motive. They're selfish, they're self-centered, they're gossipy.
Yeah, yeah.
When we do
Self-centered.
it, we
Yeah.
have a good reason,
Of
right?
course.
Like when we do it, "Oh, I forgot. Oh, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah."
I have noticed too, now that I've tried to sort of let go of all the chaos and the drama, that if I just make a compliment to one of the people who have been sort of prickly to me,
Mhm.
this happened the other day. There was a woman who came in, um, and she's not been antagonistic. She's just we're on different opinions, and we just know that. And
Yeah.
I've probably been more prickly to her than vice versa.
Uh-huh.
And I took the moment, and she had on these really cool sneakers. I said, "Wow, I really like your sneakers." Like her face lit up, and we had a nice
Yeah.
little conversation. And I walked away saying, "I feel so much better that I've cleaned the air because that was
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
me judging a
Yeah.
situation. And if I remove the judgment, then we can all live in harmony somewhat."
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to this idea that people wanna connect, that people do not like conflict, people do not wanna be in battle with you, but if you approach them too directly or with criticism, their threat system is activated,
Yep.
right? And then they can't hear what you have to
Yep.
say. It doesn't
Yep.
matter what you say after that. So disarming people is very helpful.
Yep.
And it also softens you going into a situation,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it was an eye-opening week, I must say.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I've been actually thinking about it, and I hope it's something that I can at least stay conscious of because it was really just again get curious as to why am I doing this right now?
Yeah.
Why am I doing that? And why am I being
Another category of judgment of other people, which I'm fascinated about, is, and you don't even know you're doing it, is think about the judgments you have of somebody and then ask yourself this question. What about that do I not like in myself?
Oh, that's the worst. Yes.
It's such a bummer, but, um and by the way, if you talk to, like, a couples counselor, they will say, "Whatever you criticize in your spouse, just think for a second. It probably is what you don't like deep down, your deepest shame in yourself."
Yep. Yep.
So, I've had that in mind too, like, take this guy at the pickleball court being really competitive. I can be really competitive, right? Yeah, because we're projecting, right? If it's a little bit easier if the thing we dislike about ourselves exists in somebody else, and we can criticize it in them instead of criticizing it in ourselves.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm,
Well, that's
mhm.
a pretty deep thought with Jack Handy to leave us on. Because I realize that you and I actually have somewhere to go.
We do,
And we
and
don't want
yeah.
to get judged for being late.
No. No, I know. We have a horse show to get to
And we
and a
can't wait. We
derby.
can't
Charlotte
wait.
is in another big derby.
That's
She
fantastic.
oh my
She's doing
god.
so well. So
She's
proud of her.
really had a season.
And
It's
that's not
amazing.
judgmental. That is absolutely,
No, it's just
that's
pride.
pride.
That's just
That is
pride.
100% horse parent pride.
Yeah, but
Mm.
boy, it's such a treat to be in a room with you,
I
Tal.
know. I know. And again, I'm glad
Golly,
we're
same
finally able to
time
do it. I
zone,
know.
and
I know.
I know. Well, we'll do a couple episodes from here, and we'll do it with a cocktail.
That's always my best. All right.
All right,
Can't wait, Jenny.
everybody.
See y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.
So if you enjoyed listening to that, please support us by subscribing to our channel and by telling everyone you possibly know. You can email us at theunpressedpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word, the Unpressed Podcast, no spaces. You can also follow us at Instagram. Our handle is @unpressedpodcast. Thanks so much.